Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Because this is the month that marks the birthday anniversary of Abraham Lincoln, I want to read 2 or 3 selections from Stephen Benet's John Brown's Body. Abraham Lincoln is in the midst of his struggle for spiritual wisdom as he seeks to find what for him and in his language is the will of God with reference to the great issues by which he is surrounded and which the nation confronts. This is Abraham Lincoln speaking. I've never found a church that I could join, although I've prayed in churches in my time and listened to all sorts of ministers. Well, they were good men, most of them, and yet the thing behind the words is hard to find. I used to think it wasn't there at all, couldn't be there. I cannot say that now, and now I pray to you and you alone. Teach me to know your will. Teach me to read your difficult purpose here, which must be plain if I had eyes to see it. Make me just. There was a man I knew near Pigeon Creek who kept a kennel full of hunting dogs, young dogs and old, smart hounds and silly hounds. He'd sell the young ones every now and then, smart as they were and slick as they could run. But the one dog he'd never sell or lend was an old, half-dead, foolish-looking hound you wouldn't think had sense to scratch a flea unless the flea were old and sickly too. Most days he used to lie beside the stove or sleeping in a piece of sun outside. Folks used to plague the man about that dog, and he'd agree to everything they said. No, he ain't much on looks, much on speed. A young dog can outrun him any time, outlook him, and out-eat him, and out-leap him. But mister, that dog's hell on a cold scent. And once he gets his teeth in what he's after, he don't let go until he knows he's dead. I am that old, deaf hunting dog, O Lord, and the world's kennel holds 10,000 hounds, smarter and faster, with finer coats, to hunt your hidden purpose up the wind and bell upon the trace you leave behind. But when they fail and lose the scent, I will keep on, because I must keep on until you utterly reveal yourself and sink my teeth in justice soon or late. There is no more to ask of earth or fire, and water only runs between my hands. But in the air I'll look, yes, in the blue air, the old dog, muzzle down to the cold scent, day after day, until the tired years crackle beneath his feet like broken sticks, and the last barren bush consumes with peace. I should have tried the course with younger legs. This hunting ground is stiff enough to pull the metal heart out of a dog of steel. I should have started back at Pigeon Creek from scratch, not 40 years behind the mark. But you can't change yourself. And if you could, you might fetch the wrong jackknife in the swamp. It's up to you to whittle what you can with what you've got. And what I am, for what it's worth. Hypo and legs and all. I can't complain. I'm ready to admit you could have made a better looking dog from the same raw material, no doubt. But since you didn't, that'll have to do. Therefore, I utterly lift up my hands to you, and here and now beseech your aid. I have held back when others tugged me on. I've gone on when others pulled me back, striving to read your will, striving to find the justice and expedience of this case, hunting an arrow down the chilly airs until my eyes are blind with the great wind and my heart sick with running after peace. And now I stand and tremble on the last edge of the last blue cliff, a hound beat out, tail down and belly flattened to the ground. My lungs are breathless and my legs are whipped. Everything in me is whipped except my will. I can't go on, and yet I must go on. I will say this. 2 months ago, I read my proclamation setting these men free to Seward and the rest. I told them then I was not calling on them for advice, but to hear something that I meant to do. We talked about it. Most of them approved the thing, if not the time. Then Seward said something I hadn't thought of. I approve the proclamation, but if it issued now with our defeats in everybody's mouth, it may be viewed as a last shriek for help from an exhausted, beaten government. Put it aside till victory comes, then issue it with victory. He was right. I'm not a general, but I promise this here at the end of every ounce of strength that I can muster, here in the dark pit of ignorance that is not quite despair, and doubt that does but must not break the mind. The pit I have inhabited so long at various times and seasons that my soul has taken color in its very grains from the blind darkness, from the lonely cove that never hears a footstep but my own or ever will while I'm a man alive to keep my prison locked from visitors. What if I heard another footstep there? What if someday there is no one but God, no one but God who could descend that stair and ring his heavy footfalls on the stone? And if God came, what would we say to him? That prison is ourselves that we have built, and being so its loneliness is just, and being so its loneliness endures. But if another came, what would we say? No, it must be as it always has been. We are all prisoners in that degree and will remain so. But I think I know this. God is not a jailer. What is it, Hay? Yes, I'm glad of that. I'm very glad. There's no mistake this time. We have the best of them. They're in retreat. This is a great day, Stanton, if McClellan can only follow up the victory now. Lord, I will keep my promise and go on. Your will in much still being dark to me, but in this one thing as I see it, plain. And yet, if Lee slips from our hands again, and as he well may from all those last reports, and the war still goes on, and still there is no end, even after this Antietam, not for years and years. I cannot read it, but I will go on. Old dog, but settled to the scent, and with fresh breath now from this breathing space, Almighty God. At best, we never seem to know you wholly, but there's something left. A strange new courage, We can fail and fail and fail, but deep against the failure, something wars, something goes forward, something lights a match, something gets up from Sangamon County ground, armed with a bitten and blunted axe, and after 20,000 wasted strokes, brings the tall hemlock crashing to the ground. Against the failure, something wars. This is the great word. A man may be mistaken, and this is responsible for his failure, but always the sensitive, mature man must make a distinction between being mistaken in the thing that he undertakes and failing to achieve it. Always against the failure. Even though the failure may come again and again and again and work out what seems to be its endless rhythm against the background of our arch despair, nevertheless, always against the failure, something wars, something is always coming on. There is a deeper level of vitality that is available to us, and if we do not accept the failure as final, then we are open to this upward push of something more that works against the failure, always against the failure. Something wars. And after 10,000 wasted strokes, the tall hemlock will come crashing to the ground. This is the word from this man whose life means so much to so many for so long a time. Words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer.